Alien baby Jesus.
Alien baby Jesus.
Evolution's in a rut. Natural selection in an all-time low. Shipping out fresh meat will incite territorial rages again. Will strengthen and advance us. Even create new breeds. Kind of evolution on steroids then. A little quote from the original Tomb Raider. We're gonna have a little bit of that. Hi, Henrik.
Hello, Karri. What a pleasant evening to be talking about, well, today's feature in our Alien franchise retrospective.
What a pleasant early morning. Henrik there, 11 p.m. I'm in 4 a.m. in my time zone. Trying to make this work as usual.
There's a reason why at times our episodes may appear a little bit clusterfuckian in their nature.
Yep. Many reasons. One of many.
But then again, I do maintain that our podcast and our episodes are more cohesive and more consistent than today's feature film.
I will give you, in the sense of the magic of the episode. We have the magic, right? This film is missing quite something. Let's get to that. Before we do, are you a believer, Henrik?
Well, let's put it this way, like in the words of Kinderman, I believe in death. I believe in disease, I believe in injustice and inhumanity, torture and anger and hate. I believe in murder, I believe in pain, I believe in cruelty and infidelity, I believe in slime and stink, and every crawling putrid thing, every possible ugliness and corruption.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, that's very profound, Henrik. Thank God there's a podcast where we can tackle all these deep questions that no one has tackled before. Except one, Ridley Scott. He was there first.
Well, that precisely depends on the questions. like which question are you meaning, and what are you asking? If you are asking like where do we come from, is there God?
Yep.
What is the purpose of our existence? Well, those questions have been asked.
Oh, really, Henrik?
Since the beginning of time.
Shit.
But Karri, in Scott's defense, if you are asking, what was that engineer thing in the original Alien? Well, that's a question that nobody has asked before.
Yeah. Or to quote our friend Chris Stuckman, Alien has just as many unanswered questions as Prometheus does, if not even more. Yeah, that's a perspective.
Well, actually, well, like as a person who gave a lot of flack to Stuckman in Resurrection episode, to actually give some credit to the man, he is actually partially right. Like Alien, the original film also has quite a lot of questions. Where does the xenomorph come from? What really is it? What does it really want? How Weyland-Yutani is planning to utilize the xenomorph in bioweapons program? Who would be willing to buy such a creature from Weyland-Yutani? How does the toilets work in Nostromo? Like, do they have enormous septic tanks, or do they just dump or the feces in the space? Who files the taxes on Weyland-Yutani? These are all questions that basically the original film does not answer.
True.
And in that sense, like if you do raw math, you can actually say that Alien and Prometheus perhaps have an equal number of questions that are left unanswered.
I would say the difference here is that one of them wants to answer them, the other doesn't have any intention to and never was supposed to.
Yeah, or more or less the question, the thing comes down to, and like spoilers, this is going to be my main gripe with Prometheus in today's episode. But the main problem when it comes to the questions in Alien and in Prometheus, is that Alien is a film where those questions and having answers is not the main focus of the film. Alien is a movie that wants to give you a scary escape from a killer alien in a spaceship thriller ride. It's kind of like John Carpenter's Halloween. You can ask a million questions surrounding like what's Michael Myers' backstory, why does he kill, why is he so hell-bent on getting back to Haddonfield, how did he even escape? But none of those questions are in the forefront of Halloween. What is in forefront of Halloween is Michael Myers' killing spree that is getting ever more close to Laurie Strode's location, then Laurie Strode having to being forced to somehow navigate and evade Michael Myers, and at the same time Loomis trying to catch up to Michael Myers to cut the murder spree off as quickly as possible. Whereas in Prometheus, the questions have always been in the forefront. They are in fact like the questions angle of the movie was something that was even already in the original trailers. In the Finnish trailer, they went searching for our beginning or something like that, which harkened back into the idea that this is a movie that is meant to be asking questions and where you are meant to somehow find answers. And as a like to keep the to follow with a Halloween franchise reference, where Alien would be a case of John Carpenter's original. Prometheus then would be something akin to Rob Zombie's remake or Halloween Homecoming. A film where Busta Rhymes is like, oh, we are going to go to Michael Myers' house to find answers to these questions. And at the end of a film, well, Prometheus is just like one Busta Rhymes short of being, for the answer being that, the engineers are killer shark, baggy-ass overalls. The dude sleeps in a cryo tube for 2,000 years in overalls, wakes up and doesn't even change them. What is that?
Resurrection, or are you actually making more of a comparison? Are you saying that Prometheus is Ridley Scott's Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers? The Thor cult?
Kinda, yeah. Actually, yeah. In one sense, yeah. I would say it's Halloween Resurrection in the sense that, like I said, Resurrection boasts out this question of
True.
Why does Michael Myers kill, or what's Michael Myers' deal, and then it deals no answers to you. But it is actually Halloween 6 Curse of Michael Myers in the sense that Prometheus' whole focal point, the whole driving question is something that you never asked. In Halloween 6, you never ask why Michael Myers is killing people, and then the movie comes up with a absolutely terrible answer. In Alien, you never actually ask what is the space jockey and what is its whole deal, and then comes Prometheus and gives you an answer that you never wanted.
Yeah, it's kind of like the cat's out of the bag. What now? Oh, it's the end of the franchise type of scenario, more often than not. But to be fair to Prometheus, it's not so much about space jockey, but it just uses it as one element to tie it to the Alien universe. Apart from that, it's doing its own thing. It wants to do its own thing. Ridley Scott wants to maintain distance to the Alien franchise, in a sense, to try to keep this in the same universe, but just draw its own story from here.
Yeah, this and that's actually, like, in one way that's a commendable, like, kudos to Ridley to actually trying to play that game. At the same time, it actually is quite infuriating because it makes it impossible to actually say what in the end Prometheus is. Because it's kind of like some type of a side prequel, perhaps alternate universe prequel. It is a prequel, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to say like how it actually, like, what universe are we following? It's somehow it's more confusing than the multiverse in Marvel movies.
Yeah, it's like he's in a difficult position. As an artist, he doesn't want to repeat something that he has already done. On the other hand, if you're gonna touch the Alien brand, then you gotta make these connections some way. I'm kind of surprised that Fox actually went this way. It must have been some kind of a compromise where Ridley Scott said to Fox Studios or Fox that, hey guys, if you want an quote-unquote alien film from me, this is what we're gonna do, otherwise I'm out.
Well, that's a question where we actually land into the somewhat confusing and contradictory nature of like the behind the scenes of the early production of this film. There are competing stories of how it went. One story that I've heard, and this comes from the screenwriters John Spaeth, who wrote the original script for the film, known as Alien Engineers.
That was a proper Alien prequel, right?
That was a proper Alien prequel. And the way how Spaeth tells the story is that, or actually, even before Spaeth, there is a backstory. We would have to start from all the way to 2004, when 20th Century Fox wants an Alien sequel. Mm-hmm. They approach James Cameron, who actually is interested in coming back to the franchise and making the next Alien film for Fox, but then Cameron gets wind that Fox is also planning to do some type of an AVP film. It would have aliens and predators and whatnots in it. And at this point, Cameron starts to argue against Fox. Cameron's point of view is that doing Alien versus Predator movie would somehow dilute the Alien franchise and the IP's attractiveness, and thinks that making an Alien movie, an Alien versus Predator movie, is a mistake. Fox here does not budge. They still go forward with Alien versus Predator movie, and this is the moment when Cameron drops out. Nothing is heard from the Alien sequel after this until 2009, and this is where the background, the early production stories start to differ. John Spaeth tells the story this way. He had been asked to come to Ridley Scott's production house, Scott Free, to meet some executive there. Not Ridley Scott himself. Scott at this time was busy doing the edit on Robin Hood, but they had been reading Spaeth's previous scripts. Spaeth at the time being one of those blacklist writers, a dude who has some really good script, like a script that everybody in Hollywood agrees that this should be filmed. It would be a magnificent film, but nobody can actually kind of figure out how to film it, or everybody refuses to buy it, meaning that Spaeth, he has this half legendary status as a dude who writes really good scripts but just can't get them sold to the studios. But Scott Free's production house has got a wind of Spaeth's talents, asks him to come to a meeting. He shows up there, and during that original meeting with some production studio executive, the discussion turns into a possibility of an Alien sequel. This comes from Scott Free representative, who puts to Spaeth that Ridley would be interested in returning to the Alien franchise, and Spaeth on that meeting starts to figure out different type of scenarios. The executive would in that meeting ask Spaeth to actually write his ideas down on a paper so that they can hand it to Ridley Scott for his approval. Spaeth does this, and some time passes, and the executive takes contact Spaeth and states that Ridley Scott has been actually quite keen on his ideas and would want to meet with Spaeth to move his ideas forward. And then they have some early script discussions. They throw around ideas. The Spaeth in these meetings would be tossing around the idea about the Medbot scene that we have. and that would be like one of the key scenes that would sell the idea in the end for Ridley, and Spades would get the script writing job. The other story that goes around is something like Ridley Scott really wasn't interested in doing alien film per se. He just wanted to do a sci-fi film. And then Fox would come in and say that, yeah, you can have your sci-fi film, but it has to tie down into the alien universe. It's in both cases, Ridley Scott ends up as a director of the film, but there is some contradictions on between these two stories on exactly how interested Ridley was about the idea of making yet another alien movie.
Yet again, the version that I've heard is that Ridley Scott was knowingly participating in the Alien prequel, and he was looking for a director and found a director that he liked for the project, but then Fox said that you're going to direct or there's not going to be an Alien prequel.
Okay. That is a story that I hadn't heard.
Yeah.
So there are like 3 stories on how this actually went down.
Right. Ooh. So yeah, tries to do its own thing. We as an audience, as you said, no one was really looking for the answer of what's a space jockey. Heck, we didn't even know what the hell is a space jockey, most of us in the VHS days. What? Space jockey? Oh, that guy in a chair, that alien dude.
Mm-hmm. That guy that we actually, well, depending on the tape quality, didn't even quite get to see what it was.
Yeah. Anyways, this serves as a starting point to quite the mythology, which actually is very familiar mythology. It's Abrahamic, it's Aztec, it's Greco-Roman. There's also other religious influences there. And very much revolves around the typical questions of where do we come from, why are we here? So we have Ridley Scott interested in Judeo-Christian creation of humanity, Greco-Roman and Aztec creation, myths about gods who create humans in their own image by sacrificing a piece of themselves. And there's a lot of not so subtle references to Jesus Christ, or the Abrahamic gods, or God, as seen in Bible, and the other variants. So it's like a hodgepodge of things we have already seen. Scott wanted the engineers to resemble Greco-Roman gods, and he gave instructions to make him look like some kind of a mixture of Statue of Liberty, Michelangelo's David, and Elvis Presley. And
I really don't see the Elvis Presley.
Me neither. And we have this guy, I believe it's based more on Aztec culture, where you would have this quote-unquote prince or a leader who would, at the end of his services, sacrifice himself to the gods. In this case, he kills himself to break up his DNA so that new DNA can come off it on a new planet. So they are essentially breeding life to new planets. So, in a sense, not only princes or sacrificing themselves, they are angels. Hell's angels, even, if you want to judge their behavior throughout this movie.
Kind of depends, actually. Depends on what testament you are following.
Yeah, if we are following the Old Testament, then probably everything goes.
Yeah, in that case, getting rid of your previous creation in order to start anew, simply because they just happened to do something to piss you off, it's actually quite following like God, and in that sense also, angels. If you in the end would take more of the New Testament, especially post New Testament, or like the New Testament after Jesus' crucifixion and the renewed pact between man and God. In that case, the engineers would be more more aching to something of a fallen angel or renegade angel, hell's angel, like you put it.
Right, right. So actually, Henrik, I've seen this like three times, let's say, before I started doing the lab stuff on this, and I admit I couldn't quite follow it. What the hell is going on with this film? Now I'm thankful that I did the Flick Lab treatment to this film, so I can kind of figure it out piece by piece. And when you look at it like that, when you take a moment to actually dive in, there's nothing that surprising here. Like it's following kind of the Abrahamic religion in a sense so closely that there is nothing surprising or even mystery left to this movie. It's right there. You don't even need a sequel to Prometheus. What are the unanswered questions? Frankly, there aren't many. That's it.
I actually have to argue with on that point.
Okay.
I'm forced to ask you exactly what question did you actually get an answer here.
Okay. So we have the quote-unquote Hells Angels who breathe new life to a foreign planet.
Uh-huh.
They go around different planets doing this. So they are some kind of servants of God.
Are they?
That's heavily what the plot seems to suggest to me.
I don't know. The plot can't make heads or tails about on the whole question of existence of God.
Because if you look at, for example, the chambers, or actually the spaceship that has been dormant on the planet, that has something akin to not quite a church, but it seems to be something related to an object of worship, and that could be then their god or our god, everyone's god, and these are just simply servants.
Could be. Could be also simply, the king of engineers.
Could be, but
if you are talking about the giant head,
yeah,
the sculpture in one of the rooms, yeah, most definitely that looks like a statue or a statue for, I don't know, some type of a entity or something that you would be worshipping, but they never actually tell us what the engineers are worshipping.
No, but
it might be their god, or it might be their king.
It doesn't matter really, does it?
If their society has a king, or it might just be like the statue, Michelangelo's statue of David, just some type of a like hyper ideal. A sculpture of some type of a hyper ideal that the engineers would have about their own race. It can be any of the million things.
Well, to me, it doesn't matter if it's a king or it's a prince or whatever. But it's still something that is higher in the hierarchy. Some kind of entity thing that they respect. So the commands are coming from there.
Only in the case that actually is some type of a real thing. Like if it's just if it's Michelangelo's statue of David type of case simply of a statue of some type of a hyper ideal of what their race could be, well, in that case it's just really nice set decoration. And it does not actually have any further they are not following its orders in that case.
Well,
because the statue, the stone face is achingly similar to the original engineer that we see in the film, in the opening shot of the film, the one who drinks the black goo and self-sacrifices himself. Perhaps self-sacrifice. We don't actually know what happens in the black goo scene, but
right.
But that engineer and the stone statue face, they look achingly similar. And if you are to taking the removed scenes which would show you more engineers, it would appear that that black goo drinking one is some type of a apex engineer, the most Aryan engineer of them all, the best engineer. So in that case, it is possible that the stone-faced statue is nothing more than just, a statue of some type of a ideal that the engineers as a race would be aiming at.
Well, let's take this back to the was it Alien Resurrection episode, where you, at least in the episode comments, you alluded to how Ridley Scott was interested in the whole Abrahamic religions in regards to Prometheus, and Ridley has publicly admitted that he was planning for Space Jesus, but decided otherwise.
You found that quote also?
Yeah.
Goddamn, I tip my hat to you, because that was a bitch to find. The goddamn website, movie.com, no longer exists, where the original interview came from.
Oh, okay, yeah. So if we take that he was planning for Space Jesus, but then thought that it was quote-unquote too much on the nose, then that would heavily allude to the engineers being some kind of angels, if we take this like Abrahamic structure, or at least Bible structure on this. And you kind of expand it from there. So we have now humans who are coming to the planet looking for their answers to the age-old questions. Where did we come from? They arrive to this planet. They realize that there are what seem to be some kind of a biological weapons or some organisms in some kind of an experiment that has gone terribly wrong, and evidently these people wearing these space jockey masks, these engineers, there are a bunch of bodies down there. So something has gone terribly wrong. I wouldn't take it as far as some have taken the discussion that there would have been a civil war between the engineers there, whether we should keep the humans alive or not. I think that's taking it a little bit too far, but okay, could be. But let's just assume that they were poisoned by the black goo / the aliens that came from that goo, because that goo is modifying its organic environment. So from these worms you get this big, whatever the hell they called it in the movie, that bites the idiot biologist's hand. And from a woman's womb you get Japanese cartoon, a hentai tentacle monster. It kind of does like whatever the goo. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It seems kind of insane that black goo would be something that you would want to even use as a WMD, because it's clearly very uncontrollable. Who the hell knows for what purpose that was created, if there was even a purpose, or if it was just an experiment gone boo-boo. Anyway, what it looks like it's doing to people, it's making them super strong and kind of ape-like, and a kind of a creature that could kill other living organisms, say humans.
Well, not really. Not really. It does so in Five-Field's case, who becomes as a super strong jumping zombie man.
Yeah.
But in Holloway's case, it makes you extremely frail.
At least initially.
Blood veins in your face lights up really easy, man.
At least initially. But is it kind of like the zombie thing? They rise up later and start wreaking havoc. I don't know. But we get...
Well, the movie doesn't know. Because like when it comes to in contact with humans, only Whitefield becomes strong, and Shaw and Holloway both, like they seem to become extremely weak and frail.
Fair enough. So let's just say that the black goo is some kind of a WMD or something that would destroy humanity. I guess it's questionable what the engineer would do with that goo once he would head towards Earth, as suggested that he's doing. We don't know if he's gonna use the black goo, right? He could be doing a number of things, all of them probably not good, from the human perspective anyway. The question then is he going to destroy humanity once at Earth, or is he going to just transform humanity? Did their god realize that they had created humans in his own image, let's say, and that didn't go quite right? So let's bring this black goo in and see how the DNA or the situation would resolve itself. People or scientists, even people of belief have suggested that the human evolution has been quite rapid, and therefore you could make the suggestion that there has been some outside intervention from somewhere that contributed to the genes that we have. But then there are also probably more reputable sources that would counter that claim and say that it was just purely evolution at its pace, at its normal pace. So, looking at all of that picture, then I would say it's just a picture of it's pretty much the Old Testament, isn't it?
Not really, no.
Okay.
In a way, I can see the argument of the Old Testament, but I don't see the Old Testament here providing you any kind of a roadmap to actually make heads or tails with this film. And that also goes with, when it comes to, for example, the ambitions of the engineers in this film. In Old Testament, the God is kind of still clear on what he's doing and why. He creates Earth because he's kind of bored, and then because, he has just created the Earth, he decides that, he creates man to inhabit the Earth, and then just, through all his own angels, he commands the angels to worship the man, thus creating the whole Lucifer Satan fiasco to happen. And then because, man goes and eats a bloody apple, he kicks them out of the paradise. And then from that point onwards, God just kind of wants to see everybody worship him and follow his rules, and whenever that fails to happen, he just decides to just, causally kill the whole mankind with flood or something like that. Like, God is overtly punitive in Old Testament. Yeah. But with God in Old Testament, he always presents the demand. So you kind of know that what has transpired before he decides to once again destroy the whole mankind. But when it comes to Prometheus, as we see in the very end of the film, Holloway straight up tries to ask from the bloody engineer that what the humanity did do this time in order to, justify a mass-scale genocide of the whole species. And, well, I don't know. At the end of a film, Holloway is still looking for answers.
Well, she's looking for answers, but is there any answers to really answer to? It's kind of like David says, that does it matter why they're doing what they're doing? No, maybe not really. And actually, we kind of got enough suggestions why that is happening. There's something that humans have done. If you follow the Old Testament logic, then probably God was feeling a little petty and ragey that evening and decided to hell with these humans. So,
is there really something that humans have done?
Well,
I mean, looking at the film itself,
who the hell knows, really? But
I get where you are coming from. Listen. I promise. I found the same clues that you are following at the moment.
Mm-hmm. But.
So in that sense, I know the background from where you are coming from, and due to that, I can understand the destination you have arrived. I'm merely trying to so I'm not trying to say like you are completely wrong here. Do better job. What I'm more trying to approach is that does the film itself actually get you to the same destination that you have arrived to with all the background work that you have done for today's episode? Because there is a twist when it comes to actually like following the movie itself to any destination?
Well, who the fuck knows, really? That there are things that are left in the dark. I'm not saying that, but I'm just drawing my own conclusions. For example, from the discussion with the engineer, the only surviving engineer, the dialogue of the engineer has been cut from the final film. There was even more dialogue in that scene in the early scripts I found. But I kind of gathered that the humans are a bit too nosy, that they have come to this planet. The humans have become a spacefaring civilization, and looking at how they might see humans as an invasive species now, a species that is trying to act like a god with all these spaceships, trying to conquer different worlds and trying to find out the answers that they're not supposed to get answers to. Kind of like the forbidden fruit problem, I guess.
Yes, which once again would hold water in, and we could say that that's an answer that the film provides, except for the small fact that the engineer's plan, as the film has states out, has been put on motion already 2,000 years before the film starts.
Mm-hmm.
So exactly like when you look at where were we as a species 2,000 years ago?
Yeah, that's exactly.
And how then can we actually, be too nosy for a space traveling civilization? Like it makes the argument makes sense in the context of what happens or the argument makes sense during the time that the film Prometheus takes place, which is the year 2093 exact. Is in the film the year when they arrive on the engineer's homeland. And by then, humanity has reached, interstellar travel, and they can fly around different planets, and they can reach, engineers, a weapon testing development planet, LV 223. But 2,000 years. But the engineer plan has already been going on for 2,000 years before that. So They have started their plan earliest at year 93 after Christ. So and then during that time period, human race has been so backwaters that there is no way of us being too nosy.
I think it's more or less 2,000 years. I don't know if anyone stated that it's exactly 2,000 years. And why I think this is important to point is because in the earlier drafts of Prometheus, as already discussed, actually I didn't discuss it in this context. In the earlier drafts, the engineers send an ambassador to Earth to rectify the wrongdoings of humans.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, then is the baby Jesus, alien space Jesus, with all the mythology that comes with him. And that is, of course, if you look at the Bible, that's completely disconnected from the aliens mythology. But anyway, we don't want to be too much on the nose, Ridley Scott, so it's not exactly that, but it's kind of that, except that it's exactly that.
It kinda is not that, at the end of the day. Because that is one of the plot lines or plot points that Ridley Scott and Lindelof took and threw the hell out of the actual finished shooting script of the Prometheus, which is the script that the film follows.
Exactly,
so,
but
yeah,
it's still there. It's still there. It's just
it's not there. Like you can find traces of it, but the film itself knowingly threw that plot point out.
It did, but it still left it in a state of where you can kind of conclude that, okay, space Jesus.
You can conclude it. You can look at the symbolism, and you can look at the source material behind the script, and you can look at the original script, and you can find space Jesus. I'm not denying that, but I am denying the notion that Prometheus, the movie that we watched for today's episode, would actually provide you space Jesus as an answer to its questions. This is once again, Karri, this is you actually doing all the hard work in order to to come up with an answer to the movie's questions. It's not the movie actually providing you with an answer. And because of that, I find it kind of a hard pill to swallow if we are to arrive into a destination where we would actually commend Prometheus, the movie as it exists,
Okay.
for actually managing to find an answer to any of its questions.
Yeah. I see your point completely because, yeah, if you just take the movie Prometheus, sure, it's not talking about any Aztec cultures or Abrahamic religions. It doesn't, yeah. But I'm just drawing conclusion, yeah, from what Ridley Scott has said, from what the pre-production has been, what he was saying about Space Jesus, what he was saying about all these different religions. So with that context, that's what I conclude that Prometheus is.
Yeah.
And if you take that reading anyway, then Prometheus is it's kind of there's no mystery to be solved in that case.
In that case, not really. Yeah. In that case, you actually managed to get some answers, and in the end, we can say that the film somehow finds a fulfilling conclusion to itself, because it actually finally manages to reach a point where it tells its story, it answers its own questions, and like you said, you don't need a sequel. But the film that Ridley Scott filmed and brought to the theaters is the film where basically all concrete moments for all the space Jesus and all of that are removed. You have some squint and you miss it symbolism which hinge at the direction, but those directions are basically dead ends because the film proper never reaches it, and because of that, it's a film that deems it fit to end up in a giant cliffhanger where Elizabeth Short just states that she's still looking for answers. You as an audience member, if you take, all of the behind the scenes things, Ridley Scott's interviews and Alien Engineer script and all of that into account, and you do your own detective work and you reach your own destination, you may arrive, Karri, as an individual film watcher, you may arrive at a destination where, sequel is unnecessary. But the film arrives into a destination where we are still looking for answers.
Well, even then, during the interviews for this movie, when it was actually about to come out, or was already out, Ridley Scott, I might be jumping into conclusions here too, but you make your own decisions on this material. Ridley Scott calls the engineers as dark angels, and therefore, sort of, is it like a biblical demons or angels, or it has nothing to do with Bible, but he does call them dark angels, kind of further amplifying the connections.
He does, but that notion alone, like simply calling them dark angels, it still does not actually lead into any kind of a solution.
Yeah, but it would actually follow, since he seems to be so hell-bent on showing us that the engineers do indeed hold some kind of belief system, if not religion, some kind of belief system, or...
He's hell-bent on hinting that.
Yeah.
That's what the whole Dark Angels thing quote or mentioning in an interview. That's what it in the end is. It's hinting at the possibility, but the film actually never says anything about the situation. Like it no way looking at Prometheus can you say anything about the engineers' belief systems. You don't even know if they have a religion. Even with deleted scenes, which shows you at least a couple of engineers more. Like that the theatrical version was even more confusing when it comes to these questions.
Yeah, well, if you take Prometheus as a product, yeah, it's a mess. But to think what the hell it all means or doesn't. But there's even more Ridley Scott material that he has stated in interviews. If you take that into account, what Prometheus is doing, he has been on the record saying that he has compared this pre-title sequence or during the titles has compared this to ancient civilizations where people were chosen to live as a prince and then sacrificed themselves to the gods. So that's from the horse's mouth. So there are these things that's of course it's not contributing to the wider plot of what I'm suggesting, the angels and God.
Like that, once again, like you said, that is from a horse's mouth. But also with that remark, like what Ridley Scott says there, you can't actually draw any conclusion.
What you can conclude, I think, is still that they are, as you seem to agree with, they are creating some form of life from death. If you look at the pre-title sequence that's in the deleted scenes of this movie, there are actually more.
It is also in the theatrical version. So that most definitely is what happens in the film.
I mean, there were more people there. There wasn't just a guy.
Yeah. That's the more engineers shot is deleted scene material.
Yep. So that deleted scene gives you even more indication that they are expecting him to do that, not just the spaceship in the sky, expecting him to do that, to drink that thing. When he does, then the spaceship flies away. Okay, mission accomplished.
Mm-hmm. And from the film, you can actually it does confirm that in Prometheus' universe, the engineers created man. You have the opening, the opening scene. Engineer drinks black goo. Then you have he dissolves his DNA, tears into shreds, and combines a new, looking like a human genome string. And later on in the film, you have that scene where they are comparing the engineer and human DNA, and they conclude that it's 100% match. So from those two scenes, you can say that, the film confirms that engineers created humans.
Yeah, I perhaps would challenge that 100% match. It's not given you clearly enough if it's like 100% match, but the screen says that it's a match. So, yeah, it could be 100% match, which would be weird because they don't really look the same. And if you look at the little bars on the screen, seems like that the bars are a little different in composition. So anyway, it's a close match for sure.
Okay, yeah, I do have to admit that you are correct now. Actually, going through Prometheus like screen by screen, it just states that it's a DNA match, and Shaw remarks, "Oh my God!" But later on, there is still a third scene, which is, or third and fourth scene, which would be Holloway and Shaw discussing where they re-emphasize the statement that, engineers created humans, and then they are, Holloway and David roofing the drink scene, where Holloway once again remarks that, they have found their creators. So in that sense, the film confirms that engineers created humanity.
Right.
That's actually a solid question where this movie provides a bloody answer.
Yup.
Then we just have to look at all the other questions, like what even is the black goo?
Yeah, as it stands now, we kind of have to really draw our own conclusions, or you take it at face value and you don't draw any conclusions. But again, to throw something into the Abrahamic mix, if you want to take that looking glass, like as we discussed, the engineers, they didn't want to kill humans for all of the time, since they left clues of themselves for humans. There were these murals and the like, so something made them change their views. You brought up the 2,000 years ago, and the engineer has been in the cryo box for apparently 2,000 years. There's the quote, "Sometimes to create one must first destroy." So creating something through human destruction now, I don't know. But plans have changed. And if you want to go there, maybe nothing to do with Abrahamic, but the engineers kind of are made to be as the same bunch of horde parasite bastards as the xenomorphs are, their own creation. So if the transformation would have been kind of human beneficial here, then I would doubt that the engineer would be as compassionate as he is in the film, like ripping androids' head off and killing Wayland. That would be kind of way off. So here it seems that God orders his Hell's Angels or whatnot to create a man in his image and then rips their heads off. So something has changed, we don't know exactly what, that's true. Let's just assume that it's taking from the aggression of God from the Old Testament.
Oh, then again, man, let's not assume.
Okay.
Because, listen, okay, I like, the question of like why engineers wanna wipe out humanity in Prometheus, that's actually a good segue into my main problem when it comes to the bloody film and its answers, and also when it comes to Ridley Scott, and accepting what Ridley Scott himself even says as any type of a like solid concrete answers to like what goes on in the film. Because when it comes to the whole motive of destroying humanity, the film provides you with two ideas. The first one is, like David puts it out, that you have to just destroy something in order to create a new. So in that case, Earth would be nothing more than just a petri dish for the engineers, and the whole wiping out humanity would just be nothing more than just a giant ass genetic experiment. And in that sense, and the engineer at the end of the film, having a violent sissy fit could be basically any number of things. It could just be engineer being extremely groggy after 2,000 years sleep, and then seeing basically hairless monkeys jumping at his face and telling it that they are now its equal, and that's just rubbing its ego the wrong way. Hence, it ripping off David's head and killing Wayland and all of that nonsense. That's one scenario. The other scenario that the film also puts to you as a possibility is that humans really did make some type of a cardinal sin in their past, and the wiping out humanity would be some type of a divine punishment from the engineers' end for this sin. And also, the engineers' violent tendencies at the end of the film would also fit into this scenario. In that case, reading David and Wayland waking it up and, approaching it would be these descendants of the original criminals that have still not been forgiven their deeds, now basically coming in your face and telling you that they are your equal. Well, that like in the first reading it would be just hairless monkeys having too big of an ego. In here it would be almost a criminal offense to the engineers, and once again the violence would be justified, or not justified, but understandable from the engineers' viewpoint. And my main problem with Ridley Scott's 1,500 million statements surrounding Prometheus and finding any type of a any type of a satisfactory ending to any of the questions is the fact that in the film's own commentary track, Ridley Scott makes it apparent that he actually hasn't decided which one of these two scenarios in the end is canon and is true. He throws them both in the air. He is like, the engineers want to wipe out humanity as a genetic test because Earth is a petri dish. Or is there something more to it? And the reason why I'm getting fixed on this position is because Scott actually does this in well, basically in every aspect when it comes to the story of Prometheus. Peter Weyland, the head of Weyland Corporation, perhaps made his money on Mars, having a mining operation there. And Ridley Scott uses perhaps. Maybe that's how Peter Weyland made his fortune. Perhaps the engineer home planet was a bioweapons manufacturing facility. Perhaps humans made some cardinal sin in the past, or perhaps, Earth is just a petri dish and this is nothing more than, out of hand science experiment that the engineer is hell-bent on seeing through since they started the mess. Perhaps there is space Jesus, or perhaps there is not. Ridley Scott is constantly, when it comes to his statements, he's constantly like flip-flopping. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's this. Maybe it's God knows who knows. And because of that, I'm hesitant to actually, when it comes to actually finding answers from Prometheus, I am hesitant to actually, take any one of Ridley Scott's own statements and saying that, yeah, this is an answer that we can find from Prometheus. This answer now is canon. Because Ridley Scott, the dude can't even seem to decide, is Vickers an android or is she not? She goes to the whole retarded Blade Runner, Deckard is a replicant theory fixation of his also in relation to Prometheus. Not as strongly. It's just like Ridley's, to my knowledge, to knowledge that was... It happened in was it a French movie show interview where they were interviewing Ridley Scott and the interviewer threw the idea and Ridley Scott was like, maybe. But it's like Ridley Scott's answers are like 500 maybes.
Yeah.
And not a single one of, this was my intent, this is what I meant, and this is what is going on in the film. And like maybes are okay, but when every single aspect, including your character's own backstories, are maybes and perhapses, you just have too many maybes. And at that point, I refuse to actually anymore take any one Ridley Scott statement as some type of canon answer to Prometheus.
In the end, Prometheus ends up in some kind of a original alien territory in its own way by not answering questions. It's creating so many questions, and it comes to the stage with the proposition that, hey, we want some answers. Then we just get more questions, which is what often happens in any scientific research, etc. But Ridley Scott doesn't seem to know what his own mythology is supposed to do. He hasn't quite figured it out yet, even though, was it that the screenwriter already made some kind of outline of what Prometheus 2 could be, but I guess they didn't figure this one out yet. When it comes to Vickers being android, I heavily doubt that, given that he has...
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, given that he has such of a heavy humanistic or human behavior about him, being all petty and jealous, and wants to inherit her father's enterprise so badly. She would probably know if she would be an android, but apparently she doesn't. She has never been bleeding, apparently, if she doesn't know that much. I think it would
well, that would just be, that Blade Runner bullshit going on.
Oh, well,
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ridley Scott has somewhat of a hard-on also for that whole goddamn Deckard theory.
Yeah, so we haven't even gotten into the whole Blade Runner and Alien part of the Prometheus, but those are sort of like background noise. In terms of Alien, we have something that appears to be like a proto-facehugger and proto-xenomorph. So we get all that from the Alien perspective. We also get David, an android that appears to, at the end of the day, take matters into his own hands, feels actually jealousy or wants to create something. And we get into more details in Alien Covenant, apparently, a film that was not supposed to be the direct continuation from Prometheus, which it kind of isn't, but in parts it is. But we find out then why the aliens have developed to the stage that they have by Alien.
Yeah, let's not touch Alien Covenant tonight, because Alien Covenant just makes this whole mess even more confusing, and there's only so much confusion that I can take on one night. like Alien Covenant somehow even manages to make the whole shebang even worse.
Yeah, but this is not Curse of Michael Myers, in the sense that it's not too much on the nose that this is this and this is that. No, Ridley wants to avoid all of that, and the problem with that is that when you leave those things quote-unquote unanswered, you try to make your film more pseudo-intelligent than maybe what it is under the surface in his mind.
Yeah, and when it comes to like, this is once again a section we have to theorize on what went on behind the scenes in pre-production of the film. But it could be that, leaving it all vague and like not providing answers to the audience, it may have been Ridley's intentional intent when it came to Prometheus. Because there is that moment, we have the space script, which actually, comes into conclusions in its story and actually, answers the questions. But then for some reason, and this has never actually been confirmed exactly why, but Ridley Scott takes the space script and throws it to Damon Lindelof, who already, even at the time in 2012 when this was done, was somewhat of a golden child or infamous, depending on how you look at it, for the whole Lost situation, which also is a TV show famous for the fact that it kind of didn't manage to answer many of its questions. And Lindelof's motive, which he has admitted to when it comes to Prometheus script, was to introduce a whole shebang of mystery into the story. He knowingly rewrote parts of the space script, or his treatment of the script knowingly aimed at not providing answers to audiences, because Lindelof, well, to put it on his own words, he wants to believe in the audience's capacity to, provide theories and analyze, and most specifically what I believe was Lindelof's motive to do this, and Lindelof himself has kind of admitted to it, would be the fact that if you don't provide answers, if you leave all these questions hanging in the air, it would kind of make it more likely that the audiences, after seeing the film, will continue talking about the film like we are doing today when we try to figure out what is going on, or to even see, should we even try to figure out what's going on in this film. So the confusion and the unsatisfactory nature of Prometheus perhaps was intentionally crafted by Lindelof because Scott wanted that?
Yeah, I would say Lindelof and Scott is a match made in heaven or hell, depending on your perspective. When you have someone who wrote for Lost, like you said, there are a lot of these ends that don't go anywhere, and the same is for Prometheus. And then Ridley Scott, from all that I've understood from interviews and his behavior, is that he is a very creative person, yes, but it seems that he has no limits. He just can't control himself. He has one idea, and then it spreads into trillions of other ideas, and it just comes all the more grander and more confusing. So these guys have really put this initial space treatment into the Lindelof washing machine, and then Scott is like, oh yeah, we should do that, and we should do that, and this, and this. And this is the end result. I think Lindelof thinks that this is beneficial in a way that people will keep talking about it, but a masterpiece it doesn't necessarily automatically make.
Well, I would say that, yeah, you're correct. It did not make a masterpiece, seeing how the perception and approach to Prometheus has changed over the course of the years.
Yeah, it did get quite favorable reviews upon coming out. There were concerns from Ridley that they would like to disclose some things so that Prometheus can stand on its own. But evidently the consensus is that it really doesn't stand on its own because there's too many questions to be answered, at least if you're not taking it fully to be like a new treatment of Bible or kind of mishmash of sorts from that.
But to actually, provide a question that you can get an answer, guess this sound. and from there to actually finally take this episode to some other waters. The whole space Jesus, alien Jesus thing. As a quick recap to our listeners who may not have done the exact same homework that we have done, this notion essentially stems from two books which, well, pretty much everybody believe have been influencing behind, Ridley Scott when making Prometheus. The first one would be Erich von Däniken's book Chariots of the Gods from 1968, which aims to argue that extraterrestrial life and aliens have been instrumental in shaping humanity's trajectory throughout humanity's history. But basically, Däniken's main thesis is that Earth would have been visited by aliens a number of times in the past times. They would bleed into, and through their advanced technology, humanity would have been able to advance more rapidly, both societally but also genetically. And this would explain artifacts like Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids and Easter Island and stuff like that. At the same time, Däniken puts out the idea that the events of Bible may have taken place, but they would have been results of the alien technology being used. So it wouldn't be like it's in Bible a supernatural event, but it would be events caused by high technology, which for the people of the times, because the tech would have been so advanced, would have appeared to be supernatural or magical. And the second book, which most likely is at play here, would be, like you already alluded to, would be the J.K. Fraser's The Golden Bough from 1976, which, like you stated, it is a book that aims to study the shared elements between science and religions. And this book, its main thesis is that ancient religions were fertility cults revolving around worship and periodic sacrifice of some type of entity called a sacred king, basically a king figure or a leader figure in these cults and in these cultures, which would be periodically sacrificed in order to, to give sacrifice to something in order to maintain the fertility or of the cult or nation or religion, what have you. And for example, with Jesus is often seen as being this type of a sacred king, a king that sacrifices himself for the benefit of all mankind, basically. So those are like when we name drop things like Space Jesus in today's episode, those are pretty much the two sources where everybody, us included, we suspect that Ridley Scott would have gotten the idea of a Space Jesus. So with that audience helping out of the way, Karri, direct question to you: how did you feel about the whole Space Jesus thing? Now alluding to a possibility that was what is going on behind Prometheus, or even without that, hey, Jesus was an alien. How do you feel about that theory?
Well, it's hardly something new as a theory. How did I feel about that? I could get into more details in the quickies, but I'll just say this. If that's the case, that we have a Space Jesus in Prometheus, it's not very innovative. Prometheus is more interested in telling its mythology than it's interested in providing something of a proper focus point for the movie. Like in Alien, we had aliens as the focus point. As when it comes to Prometheus, like it's all over the place. So that's my big gripe with Prometheus.
Oh, what about then outside of Prometheus? Like you being the avid church-going person, as we all know, and all about Bible-loving little Karri.
Totally.
Yeah, totally. Hey, in reality, Jesus is an alien. Stuff in Bible, may have happened, but is not supernatural. Supernatural God does shit. It's just high tech doing its work. How would you feel about that? Would you finally be like ready to get back to the church?
Lately, I've no idea what the hell is going on in this universe. Like my sister, younger sister, has always been an extremely militant, staunch atheist, making fun of Jesus at every turn, and now she's a believer when she met like a Mexican Catholic guy and is against abortion and all that, and I'm like, what the fuck? What the hell is happening? So, but anyway, no, if you take the New Testament where alien baby Jesus comes sharing stories of fish and forgiveness and is then being crucified, and therefore let's kill all humans because they're all evil. It could go with Old Testament, with Jesus, not so much. And if you take all the of its time elements of New Testament, I think the Space Jesus argument is absolutely ridiculous.
What about if also New Testament would be true, and the extraterrestrial beings would have finally learned how to chill a little bit and wouldn't constantly be and you wouldn't be in constant threat that our extraterrestrial overlords, which in lack of better understanding we would call a god, would just show up and destroy the whole humanity. What if that wouldn't be an active threat for us, and they finally would be more forgiving? Would you then be ready to actually, renew your approach to Christian religion and, go to the church? Not so much to worship, the supernatural man in the sky, but, to go to the Sunday Sabbath with the mindset that I'm actually going to worship the highly technological man in the sky. Would it make the whole Jesus is an alien and also New Testament happened, so the aliens finally would manage to chill a little bit? Would it actually make accepting religion easier for you?
I like to quote Prometheus, quote, "Don't be an idiot, don't be a skeptic." I choose to still be of the skeptic camp here.
Are you now calling yourself an idiot?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm calling myself just skeptic and leaving it at that. Not taking one book and just putting it above all the others just because somebody thinks there's a space Jesus.
Okay, I do feel that, man, you are absolutely hopeless. Like, because I can't get you to church with the supernatural man in the sky, and I can't get you to church with the highly technological, not supernatural man in the sky.
I mean that I guess that would be cool, but no. But at least when it comes to DNA, when it comes to things that Prometheus does establish, it did establish that there's a DNA match. It also establishes that it's going all the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, trying to drink from the cup of eternal life. Can we at least agree that the film establishes that Wayland is a dumbass, Henrik? Come on, like it's 2093 and this guy hasn't figured out that the way to live a long life is blueberries and cauliflower, dumbbell reps and bunch of vitamin pills and stem cell therapy. Those are some established science for you, man. And instead, what he does in like less than 100 years from now, he travels through the stars and then asking for a magic solution from a space alien or dark angel. Please let me live a little longer.
But in Wayland's defense, that wouldn't be a magic solution. It would be actually highly technological solution for him to live longer.
Yeah.
Because once again, engineers are not magical beings; they are technological beings.
Yeah. Well, Wayland clearly still hasn't heard about Brian Johnson and the Blueprint program. He might have gotten those really practical ways of living a little bit longer, extending your life way before you started looking like a living CGI creature.
I don't know. I would once again. This is an aspect that the film never actually tells you. Most likely because Ridley Scott never actually managed to figure out what tricks Peter Wayland has pulled off already in his attempt to live longer. Perhaps he has done this, perhaps he has done not, but my own personal headcanon is that Peter Wayland has already tried all of basically the things that you can try on Earth and on Mars. So he has, used the blueberry milkshakes and slow yoga and basically all of that. And as a result, Guy Pearce looks like, I don't know, badly made up 102-year-old man who can't walk.
It looks awful, right? Yeah.
It's not the worst, but it's also not the best.
Yeah.
Like even and others have drawn this comparison also. But for example, the old man makeup in Big Trouble in Little China have had, and that was a film that did it come out 86. Even that movie had better old man makeup than what we have in Prometheus.
1986.
Yeah. Well, somehow my memory, which is absolutely terrible in when it comes to national holidays and birthdays and how to count 1 + 1, still manages to hold on to completely useless facts like when a movie X came out. But in the CGI's defense, I also feel that Guy Pearce as an actor is way in too good of a shape to really pull off like a 100 and I don't know how old Wayland is supposed to be here, but like over 100-year-old man walk.
Yep.
It's basically it's counter the problem that Scorsese's The Irishman had. Where a 105-year-old Robert De Niro can't pull off 30-year-old man walk.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, Guy Pearce as Peter Wayland was already like kind of a lost cause, and it would have been helped with better makeup.
Yeah,
but they couldn't have completely saved it.
I kept thinking about this, that they were arguing that it's a better idea to get a young actor who can play the young part, which is like, 25 seconds in the total movie, or not much material. That it's better to have a young actor who can play the old and the young part than to have an old actor who tries to have the young parts. And I would say they could have taken the exactly the opposite road and take an old actor and then put some CGI on him for 25 seconds. Dang.
Yeah, perhaps. And this is once again, this is a decision that comes from the space script. It's a remnant for there. In that script, Peter Weyland had more prominent role, both as an old man, because it takes like 45 minutes or something like that until they reach the LV the 223 planet, and before that we would have a number of scenes with Holloway and Shaw approaching Peter Weyland and just, advertising this idea of this space trip to him. And then we would also have had dream sequences when David would talk to cryo-sleeping Peter Weyland, where we would have had like the young Weyland on some beach with a bikini clad woman on his side, and those are the scenes for which Guy Pearce was hired to appear to play Peter Weyland here. Like Scott wanted Pearce for those scenes so that he can have a cool looking man in young Peter Weyland scenes, and it is kinda tragically bad call, seeing how from the finished film all those scenes were axed, and the only scene that they actually in the end shot was that one YouTube short video via the Gods Now TED Talk. And outside of that, the whole Guy Pearce angle is completely superfluous.
Yeah. One thing that I would like to add before maybe we go to the quickies is like that the interesting mess of telling the story on LV-223 and then planting elements to LV-223 that could intersect with the events of LV-426, except it's a totally conscious decision that these are supposed to be separate planets. But similar events happen on those planets anyways. Like on LV-223, the whatever you call it, spaceship crashes as a result of Prometheus crashing into it, and seems to take the same position when crash landing as the one that we see on LV-426 a few years later. So it's almost as if they tried to make it more on the nose in the beginning, but then decided that we're actually gonna call it LV-223, which would then also, if you want to look at Leviticus chapter 22 verse 3, there's some verses there that might explain to you why they call it LV-223 or not.
In my opinion, no.
Yep.
Like I too, I didn't catch this on my own. I found the Leviticus lead when doing the background works, but when it comes to the verse, I actually don't see how that would really connect to Prometheus.
Not very strongly.
Yeah, like to save people from the time.
Okay.
The job of now googling Bible verses. Leviticus 2:3 would goes like, say to them, for the generations to come, if any of your descendants is ceremonially unclean and yet comes near the sacred offerings that the Israelites consecrate to the Lord, that person must be cut off from my presence. I am the Lord. End of Bible verse. And
cut off from presence, that's pretty much all.
Presence pretty much. Also like sacred offerings, perhaps. Humanity having to give sacred offerings. If you sweep switch Israelites with engineers demanding sacred offerings from humanity, and like you stated, cut off from my presence, I am the Lord part. But that is like flimsy as hell. I can understand why people have found that connection and why that theory exists. So like LV 223, Leviticus 223 makes sense. But as a verse, I never actually managed to tie this one to the Prometheus that strongly. I do think that this is one of the unnecessary roads that the internet sleuths who are hell-bent on finding some logic and answers from Prometheus have taken.
And that tells you something about Prometheus. People are hell-bent on finding answers, and there's tons of YouTube videos where someone says like, yeah, that's not it, you douchebag, it's this way, duh. So that's the mess that you come with Prometheus. That's the weight that you have to carry with this movie.
Yeah, and with those YouTube videos, like I promise I won't approach Alien Covenant more tonight, but like remembering when Prometheus had come out, because I was there riding the wave when the movie came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I got to witness the whole turning of the tide when it came to audience reaction to the movie from extremely positive to almost poisonously negative. And during that turning point, when audiences were starting to turn against Prometheus, that's the point when a lot of these Prometheus Explained YouTube videos came from, and a lot of them came from a place of good faith, and they were videos that tried to argue for Prometheus. And the often repeated remark in those arguments was that, Prometheus is the first part in, I don't remember even how many, was it 6 movies or how long this Scott's take or return to Alien franchise was supposed to be. But like a lot of those videos were like, you are going to get the answers in the sequels. And now that we have Alien Covenant and Alien Romulus,
coming up,
Romulus is coming out. But well, I have to say, I kind of feel extremely bad for all of the people who were making those videos.
Yeah, that's a tragic story of Ridley Scott trying to come back to his baby, and Prometheus was still quite successful. It was incredibly expensive, so taking that into account, pretty successful movie. Unfortunately, his path is never gonna get a proper resolution, so it's one of those stories that we will never get the finality to. But performance pedestal, raise and praise, or say who did it the worst?
Altogether, we have strong performances from good actors here. I have like 3 favorites. One is Charlize Theron's figures. One is David Fassbinder's David. And the last one would be Noomi Rapace's Elizabeth Shaw. And from these 3, I'm gonna go with Noomi Rapace, mostly because I just love that Medbot scene so bloody much. So yeah, my pick is Noomi.
Okay, that's a great scene, and it was, I believe, the single scene that forced Prometheus to have an R rating, which the studio was not really willing to go with, but they couldn't really cut out that scene, so there you have it, R rated. For me, a lot of good actors here. I'll just go and choose Idris Elba. The kind of voice of reason, like the very down-to-earth guy here who has a bunch of lines that provide at least a modicum of mental clarity for the audience what the hell might be going on here with his theories. So, Idris Elba, good stuff. What worked?
Now, in the past episodes, I have sometimes remarked Prometheus as my guilty pleasure film, and to take my own words somewhat back, that may have been the wrong term for me to use. I kind of hail from the Susan Sontag school of thought, where she argues that there really are no truly guilty pleasures because every film has something that you enjoy, and that element is the reason why you like the film. And when it comes to Prometheus, even though I have called it a guilty pleasure, perhaps I should stop doing that. I know what works for me in Prometheus, and that is theme and atmosphere. I do think that those two are like and not theme in philosophical themes, but like in relation to atmosphere, like the feeling of the film.
Okay.
And to me, that is the reason why that is the reason why I didn't completely hate the movie when I walked out from the theater after the original screening. That is the reason why I do rewatch the film occasionally, because I do think that the feeling of mystery, not in the sense that the feeling of the questions that the film wants to tackle, because that's a flaming train wreck, but the feeling of these people coming into this alien world and being surrounded by this hostility and this environment that they can't fully understand. I do think that is something that Prometheus manages to catch extremely well. And every time I watch Prometheus, even though I know that I am going to be mostly disappointed by the story itself, but I do always enjoy kind of just existing in that feeling.
Well, oh boy, you're in for a treat, because Alien Covenant is gonna try the same thing, the mystery on a foreign planet, and ooh, what do we have here? Okay, it doesn't quite work there. I'm just kidding, but what worked? Well, if you go on surface level inspection, it has this quasi-rich universe built around it, so it might fool people as to thinking that this is an absolute masterpiece because it's so vague and it's a lot of mystery. So in that sense, it works. If you just take it at face value, no connection to anything from the culture as we know it, then cool. I think you will enjoy Prometheus way more. But it's interesting that you noted the atmosphere, because that's something that I have a problem with in Prometheus.
Okay, how come?
Well, let's get to what didn't work. It's the very surface level story. After all, if you look at under the hood, like Ridley Scott, he tried to avoid repeating the themes that he has laid out in Alien and the images that he has laid out in Alien, to keep Prometheus as a single unit and impactful unit. But if you look at something like Alien X for the umpteenth time, as you do in Alien Covenant as well, there is no mystery to what they will do to the characters. So you want to look for other plot lines, which Prometheus does. But the irony then is that he, in my opinion, turns to Bible and ancient religions to try to replicate that, and then indirectly alludes that this is basically about angels, demons, and God. So in a way, I guess you could make the argument that Shaw is kind of a dumbass as well, who hasn't read her Bible, because everything in this movie is already the answer if you take that perspective. She could even just consider skipping the whole journey to the engineer's planet, because it might not be worth her time, as there's quite a bunch of clues. At least the clue that they might not be friendly. You don't want to go there alone with a bodiless android. But when it comes to the mood, There's very little anything alien here, and surely on purpose. But I just don't agree with all that decision. Like this is atmospherically much more lightweight than Alien, and this is a bit of an odd decision. This could have easily been a scarier movie. It's listed as a horror movie, for fuck's sake. Doesn't matter what it's listed as, but
I can kind of see it.
yeah, that doesn't matter what they listed as or how they folder it as. But yeah, as stated, Fox wanted a PG-13. Ridley Scott was forcing an R rating, so they could have played more with silence and spaces and isolation in this movie again, but there's none of that in my eyes. It's more like interested in telling its mythology than it is interested in engaging the audience with the kind of world that would kind of take you with it on the journey. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way every time I watch this movie. It's like more about the mythology than it is about engaging structure. And even then, I would say that it's a little bit too surface on some of the investigation of its themes. So, too far from Alien, too far from the atmosphere of Alien, too far from any atmosphere, might be my argument. But you're taking a completely different position.
Yeah. In my opinion, like the feeling that you get when they are exploring when they reach the planet, when they like inhabit the planet, and when they're trying to study the alien megastructure, to me that feeling is kind of palpable. I do think that that's one of the like the act of them investigating, to me, that I get one of the strongest feelings of mystery that I've gotten for a long time from basically any movie in here in Prometheus. And once again, I don't mean mystery as open questions, because you already know that there are no answers to them. So they looking at concrete mysteries that the movie presents to you, that's completely meaningless exercise, but simply like the mystery that the characters are facing or that they are tackling with. The mysterious atmosphere, perhaps a better choice of words in what I really enjoy.
Describe the film in one word.
My word would be infuriating. Not because any technical aspect of the film outside of the script department, but my biggest problem with Prometheus has always been that the fact that this is a movie that from the first original, at least for the first trailer that played in Finnish movie theaters, which had that they went looking or searching for our beginning, what they found might be the end, and like that trailer alone kind of loaded your face with the possibility that we are now getting a film that asks a whole shitbang of questions, and with that expectation of or with that act of the movie asking all of these questions, the movie kind of takes upon itself also the requirement of providing answers. And when the movie does not do that in any level, what you're feeling with is just like, a bunch of questions that are simply asked from you or presented to you on rapid fire. And that actually is really infuriating feeling. It's kind of like, if we would reach, the quickies here, would you recommend the film, for example? I would be like, either complete radio silence, you wouldn't get an answer for me. Or I would be, maybe I do, maybe I don't. That non-answer would be kind of maddening, and that's kind of like what I'm constantly facing with Prometheus.
And on that point, I was kind of between two words on what to choose here. I was first gonna go with garrulous, then with loquacious. Like, loquacious is the one that is more neutral out of these two. Loquacious being something like very talkative and speaking and expressive, whereas garrulous is more negative, like has connotations like rambly and tiresomely talkative. And in fact, I'm gonna go with garrulous this time. The movie is quite garrulous and then not leading us into conclusions. Will this film survive the test of time?
Now, I know I am supposed to say yes, because it's a Ridley Scott film, and at least for the moment people are still talking about it. It is still tied quite strongly, especially in discussions into the Alien franchise. The Alien franchise will have, it will survive the test of time. Ridley Scott's original will survive the test of time. Therefore, you would say that Prometheus also, survives the test of time. But Ridley Scott also has made a number of films that you just don't remember. Like I say Matchstick Men, and you, I hope you say Nick Cage. Or if I say Counselor, that's a certainly quite recent film, and I doubt that anybody remembers that one either. So there are quite a lot of. He has made some four everlasting classics, but he's also made a number of films that audiences are completely willing to forget. And I do think that when enough time has passed, when Alien the franchise has moved far enough from Prometheus, when enough sequels has come out and enough years has passed, I kind of do think that people won't be remembering Prometheus.
I bet it's gonna be Gladiator 2 coming later this year. I think Ridley Scott is...
Oh no, God.
Yeah.
Oh God, no.
He's big on these sequels lately.
Well, maybe we also get a Thelma and Louise 2 at some point. Though both actors at this... I don't even know, are they... Yeah, they are alive.
Yeah, I think Prometheus is not the sleeper movie that people will later hail as the masterpiece, like 2001: A Space Odyssey. This is not the case. People might be still talking about this, but this is not it. This is not it. Complete the sentence. You really know you're watching Prometheus when?
When your alien film turns into Space Jesus that maybe wants to spread gospel of liquid Viagra to make you buy its hentai collection.
Wow.
And before, hey, before you start snickering, my reading and answers are as good as any non-answer you get from Ridley.
Amen. And in that vein, you really know you're watching Prometheus when you spill the goo via coitus. Did you like Prometheus?
I like the act of watching the film. I'm kind of two minds about this. Like as a film, or as a narrative, I don't like Prometheus. And in a way, whenever I watch Prometheus, I kind of just I just get infuriated. Like I said in my one word. Because that all the dead ends that this film takes, and I kind of don't wanna watch Prometheus because I know that the act will only lead me into dead ends. But when I'm watching Prometheus, when I'm putting it on big screen and I have my headphones, or I'm blasting the sound system, in those moments I do like the act of watching the film. I like the moments when I'm feeling the atmosphere. So I don't actually quite know, do I like the film? I guess to answer the question, I guess I don't like the film, but I like the feeling of seeing it.
Well, it's a hodgepodge of feelings in my mind too. Like, there are things to like here. It's not a film it's not a film that I wouldn't rewatch. Individual elements. I think there's argument to be made. There's some good characters here. It's fun to watch. There's certain richness is there, yeah. Like all these twists and turns that might not make a whole bunch of sense, like Wayland pretending to be dead but isn't. At least I couldn't find any like a logical conclusion why you would do that exactly, but there's a lot going on in the film, so it makes for an interesting watch. When you leave the theater after the last shot, then you're still like, what the hell? So I think this would be the perfect material for a magic mushroom trip. Without that element, it's just a bunch of certain shots, scenes that I like, certain characters. I don't like the approach of trying to look for the answers. I do kind of like the building up of mystery. After an hour mark or something, it just gets a little tiresome, since there's very little answers. Would you ever rewatch the film? Yes.
Yeah, same here.
Would you recommend Prometheus?
That's a tough one, actually. I'm kind of two minds about it. Yes, because I like the atmosphere, like already said a couple of times. So you would get that, and yes, in the sense that technically it is competent filmmaking. Has good actors. Mostly has good effects and CGI. I love the creature designs here. Here they are disgusting and gooey, just like I like them. But then again, at the same time, just kind of no, because even though technically it's well done, but at the same time, for example, the cinematography, it's good. It's really good cinematography, but it's also extremely traditional cinematography, which is disappointing in this film. Like, one of the things that most likely was carried over from Space Script is the whole idea that the engineers see in wider ratio than what humans can see. So to them, the derelict alien structure would be like, it would have all this scientific shit all around it. Our main characters would see only empty hallways, but in reality there would be all this tech shit all around the walls, and there would be so much data, and our humans just with the human eyesight, they just couldn't see it. But David, as an android, has cameras for his eyes, so he actually can see what the engineers have been seeing, and he sees all this magical, like this technological shit surrounding him, and that's a great idea. That's a good ponderings on the effects of perspective. It also would like intensify the atmosphere of the movie and the feeling of danger, because all of a sudden David would be the character who has the information upper hand, or the answers in or the aces in his hand, because he can literally see what the humans cannot see. And the way how it's shot in the film is medium close-up shot on Fassbender looking at a wall. David Fassbender taking long goo out of from the wall, extreme close-up on the goo and the more smaller particles inside of it. A long shot, medium close-up shot of people in a hallway in the background. David climbs the wall. Like when you hear the idea of the limits of human perception and the hidden information, your mind is kind of racing with possibilities, how that would be presented, how cool it would look, and how much it would bring to the feeling, and how the stakes would just get higher when that is like showed to the audience, what David sees and the humans cannot, and then it's wasted completely due to the extremely traditional, even though good cinematography, or you are infuriated by the nonsensical stupidity of the characters, and not because of the stupidity of the characters. I've defended stupid decisions done by movie characters in this podcast before, and I'm willing to defend them doing that in Prometheus too, part because movie has to happen, and also partly because stupid decisions are realistic. I mean, when the lights mysteriously go out in my flat, I don't grab the crucifix and I don't run out of the apartment because of demonic, infestation. I just look for the fuse box because nothing ever is there. So the stupidity is not the problem. Wayfield and his friend getting lost in the alien megastructure, even when they have like the 3D map, is, Wayfield getting lost in the megastructure is an extremely stupid moment. You're a scientist in a foreign compound. You should most definitely make certain that you are way out of the construction before you take even one step forward. You should always keep a map in your head where you are going. That's an extremely stupid character moment, but I can live with that. That's completely fine. But the movie kind of goes the extra length repeatedly to highlight the stupidity of these characters. With the doofuses getting lost in the megastructure, that's preceded by a scene where they present that exists solely to present the floating mapping balls that Wayfield has, which create real-time 3D map of the megastructure. You are being repeatedly reminded of the megastructure because the captain has the map on the bridge are being updated or real time. So basically, like, them getting lost with the map, that's impossible. That's way too stupid. Or you mentioned Peter Weyland hiding his existence on Prometheus. That's a stupid character decision. There's no reason for Weyland to do that, but I can accept that stupidity. But what makes it infuriatingly stupid for me is the fact that the film somehow seems to be at all of its twist, because it hints at the Peter Weyland being alive on the ship throughout the movie. You have the whole Medbot thing that exists solely because, Peter Weyland is on the ship. You have mysterious conversations because Peter Weyland is on the ship. You have Vickers and David being all cryptic to kind of hint at the end twist Peter Weyland is on the ship. You have scene after scene hinting Peter Weyland on the ship. So the film is kind of like, it's not just a stupid character moment, it's a stupid character moment where that the movie itself holds you at hostage and forces you to look repeatedly exactly how stupid it is. And that's infuriating. And in the same way, like we talked about, that the act that the film wants to ask questions, even if where do we come from is an old question, it has been asked before, but I'm all fine. You can ask old questions. Go ahead. I don't mind.
Yeah.
And I'm completely fine with not getting all the answers. But what's infuriating here is that you get no answers at all, and at the same time, the questions are the main selling point that the film wants to give you. The film wants you that you acknowledge its existence as a movie that asks all these 500 questions, and then it decides to answer not single one of them. And that's infuriating as all hell. So it's kind of a... It's kind of like two forces colliding, things that I like, why I would recommend the film, colliding into things that absolutely like infuriates me. And in the end, fuck it, no recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
It's technically well made, but the film is just not worth the trouble.
Was it Lindelof who said that there used to be in the script or in the shootings more context on why the doofus would give his hand to the alien worm creature? But even if you take that the biologist is very happy-go-lucky and is really excited about life forms, it really doesn't make it any better of a situation when it comes.
It makes it a little bit.
Okay.
Not because he's happy-go-lucky and just excited to see alien creatures, but because being able to capture that creature would actually be a big deal. When he finds the alien worm, he actually finds an alien life form. That means that he's going to be the scientist of the year. He's going to have supermodels, wanting to be his girlfriend simply because he's such a great scientist. He's going to write books. He doesn't have to work a day on his life after that because he found a bloody worm on an alien planet. And later on, when he sees the vagina snake, that would be even better. Like, now he would have found a worm and a snake. Even his bloody grandson would now have supermodels as girlfriends simply because their granddad managed to find the vagina snake. So that kinda makes sense. That is, once again, that is a stupid moment. Like of course, when you see it, the vagina snake is aggressive as all hell, and it's clearly dangerous. So him sticking his hand at it, it's a stupid character moment. But like I said, it's one of those stupid character moments that I can actually accept.
Yeah,
but I would wanna be scientist man of the year also, and sleep with supermodels.
Well, I guess he will be scientist man of the year in the whatever newspaper they release in 2093. It's the guy who stuck his hand into like alien vagina without thinking too much of it.
But then in his defense, can you say that you ever managed to stuck your hand in alien vagina?
No, he certainly had his moment in the spotlight.
And Whitefield will also have his moment in a spotlight because he will perhaps be the first man in the history of man who has literally gone apeshit.
But to get lost with a map that you have yourself generated, and being the two doofuses, at least the other doofus geologist being that, well, I have nothing to do here, nothing to contribute because there's a dead body on board, so I'm just gonna go out. Decides to tag along, even though he has the bloody map.
Yeah, and the captain has a map, and they have like radio communication.
Yeah.
Once again, in Space Script, there's a scene where Whitefield loses the map. He just drops it somewhere in the alien mecha construction. How the fuck do you even do that? That's a stupid ass character moment, but fine, what else? I can kinda live with that, but I can't kinda live with the fact that the captain has a real-time 3D map at the bridge that he's actually looking at. and like, he doesn't realize to actually use the comms that they are talking to each other as it happens, and just, tell them where to go in order to get out of the mecha construction. Like, that is way too stupid. That's where my forgiveness for character stupidity just ends.
Yeah. Not to mention that shape-wise the chip is quite easy to understand. If indeed the corridors that they are walking in also would be the entire tube that we see from the outside.
Yeah, I mean, the argument that, it's a hard construction to navigate, and without exact GPI signal of their location, which they actually could provide since they get the coordinates where they are still, since they can announce them to the captain. But even discounting all that, the mecha construction, like you said, it's the shape is easy enough. Like, I have to deal with much more difficult to navigate 3D maps in video games, and I've managed to pull it off.
No, yeah. Would I recommend Prometheus? Well, that's the mindfuck in terms of, is it bold or is it not bold enough? It's not bold enough if you take the religions on board to your understanding of the film, your deciphering of the film. In that case, the plot is actually quite rigid and not so imaginative. There is no surprise twist, whatever kind of mindset you take aboard with this movie. Like, unlike many pro critics, I don't side with them that Prometheus leaves like a heck of a lot open in terms of the Abrahamic context. In fact, it after a closer investigation, it leaves almost nothing to the imagination if you're on that logic. But then again, taken at face value, you can take any interpretation as you want. Like even the hentai might be involved. So what Prometheus is missing, it's the core appeal in any way. So we never get to it. The engineer is not really the core appeal. There's no strong central focus or character like in the original Alien, which is the alien. This movie is a little bit too interested in giving you more and more questions instead. So, no recommendation in the end. I guess that's wrapping Prometheus up.
Yeah, perhaps just quickly before we end, we have been hinting at the Space Jesus Ridley Scott an interview thing. So I don't know. Perhaps as a also for our listeners, just so that they don't have to go Google up interviews from websites that no longer even exist. To give the direct quote, what we were from the interview,
yeah,
to showcase what we meant when we talked about that Ridley Scott admitted the whole Space Jesus thing. So here goes. This is movies.com. We had heard it was scripted that the engineers were targeting our planet for destruction because we had crucified one of their representatives, and that Jesus Christ might have been an alien. Was that ever considered? And Ridley Scott, we definitely did. And then we thought it was a little too on the nose. But if you look at it as an our children are misbehaving down there scenario, there are moments where it looks like we've gone out of control running around with armor and skirts, which of course would be the Roman Empire. And they were given a long run, 1,000 years before their disintegration actually started to happen. And you can say, let's send down one more of our emissaries to see if he can stop it. Guess what? They crucified him. End quote. So when we have been, like, once again, to our listeners who may have been wondering, like, what are we talking about when we talk about the on the nose and Ridley Scott admitting Space Jesus, this is now the exact quote from the interview that we have been leaning on.
Speculating if there would be a reason that it has been taken off the internet.
Well, I'm kind of two minds about it. In a way, if I were really, like, most likely the real reason why it is out is that movies.com as a site got sold.
Uh-huh.
And I don't remember completely, was movies.com at some point its completely own individual website, or was it always a subsidiary website for the Fandango chain, which I've come to understand is the main movie ticket, like, selling chain in US. One of the main, so if you want to buy a movie ticket, you go to their website to buy your movie ticket. Controls most of the big screen, Cinemaxes in US, or the ticket sales to those. That's what I've understood. So I don't know if movies.com ever was completely individual website entity, or if it always was like subsidiary website for Fandango, but these days, at least, Fandango has bought movies.com and fused it with itself. And now, movies.com is only in service of selling movie tickets and showing movie times, screening times. So that's the official what has happened. To theorize, would Ridley Scott perhaps wanted to make certain that interview is taken down from the internet? Would I be really that moment of interview is in my opinion, it's so stupid. Kind of the idea of Space Jesus is so stupid. that as Ridley Scott, in his shoes, I would have been tempted to have that interview taken down from the interwebs. Then again, Ridley Scott is not stranger to making and holding up on stupid statements when it comes to his movies. That once again, that Blade Runner replicant theory that he still defends is stupid as all hell, and that's not stopping Ridley. And also a second point, like that interview quote, like finding all of this, since the film itself provides you no answers. If you wanna find any conclusion to actually what goes on in Prometheus, basically finding all these stupid Ridley Scott quotes and listening to what David Lindelof is saying, and reading like age-old books about space gods and like sacrificial kings. That's the only way how in your mind you can try to create some type of answer. So in a way, I would say Prometheus and Ridley Scott, they would need these stupid interviews to stay online.
I think I cracked it at the last minutes of this episode.
Oh my god! Finally someone.
Finally cracked it.
What's the answer? Ridley Scott is a hack.
It's something that you just said that just made the light switch go on. Like, it's so meta, Henrik. Ridley Scott is a genius. You have to go to Bible to figure out the meaning of life and what the meaning to all of this is. Same as what Prometheus is doing, it's proposing all these questions. And the answer to understand Prometheus is to go to your faith. Because putting the whole construction of faith of the belief systems on the Prometheus gives you most of the answers. Without it, it just all collapses into more questions.
Well, that would be like the perfect answer. Ridley Scott made $123 million like Bible recruitment movie just to get people on reading Bible and going to churches. The only problem there. Can you believe that Ridley is once again pulling this stuff from his ass where it may be or maybe not? He's giving, conflicting information. Is that in 2013, Ridley Scott, I believe, has stated that he's an atheist. So, even when it comes to, you trying to piece together what Prometheus is actually about, Ridley Scott managed to model even that. I kind of have to admire the audacity of that pitch.
It's kind of like I already said, this guy has so many ideas, and they cascade into so many different side quests of their own that in the end you just can't figure it out. Like I said, I think Lindelof and Ridley Scott match made in heaven.
Unfortunately, so and hopefully a relationship that will never repeat ever again.
But hey, Henrik, we are gonna get all the answers in Alien Covenant next time.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of perhaps a sequel to Prometheus, so, and it's second part of Ridley Scott's 56 movie epic Return to Alien franchise, so we must get some answers finally from that film.
Yeah.
How bad could it go?
Sorta kinda sequel. Now that we have had pretty solid recording sessions for the previous Aliens in the sense of minimal stumbling, I think, on my part. Now, considering how much stumbling has been witnessed in the recording session of Prometheus, I'm really not looking forward for the stumblification of the Flick Lab in Covenant, but that's what's coming next.
Unfortunately so.
Ooh, what do we have here? Okay, doesn't quite work.